What being open to everything means. Everything means just what it says, no exceptions. When someone suggests something to you that conflicts with your conditioning, rather than responding with, "That's ridiculous, we all know that's impossible," say instead, "I've never considered that before. I'll think about it." Open yourself up to the spiritual ideas of all people and listen with an open mind to crazy schemes and ideas that at first seem to be outrageous. If someone suggests that crystals can cure hemorrhoids, that natural herbs can lower cholesterol, that people will eventually be able to breathe underwater, or that levitation is possible, listen and be curious. Let go of your attachments to what you've been trained to believe. Open your mind to all possibilities, because whether you believe something is possible or impossible, either way, you'll be right. How can that be true? Your agreement with reality and all that's possible determines what you'll become. If you're convinced that you can't become wealthy and famous or artistic or a professional athlete, a great singer, or whatever, you will act upon that inner conviction that prevents you from manifesting what you'd really like. All that you'll get from your effort is being right. When you need to be right, you're attached to your conditioned reflex of the way things are and always have been, and you assume they always will be. Releasing your attachments. Your attachments are the source of all your problems. The need to be right, to possess someone or something, to win at all costs, to be viewed by others as superior. These are all attachments. The open mind resists these attachments and consequently experiences inner peace and success. To release attachments, you have to make a shift in how you view yourself. If your primary identification is with your body and your possessions, your ego is the dominant force in your life. If you can tame your ego sufficiently, you'll call upon your spirit to be the guiding force in your life. As a spiritual being, you can observe your body and be a compassionate witness to your existence. Your spiritual aspect sees the folly of attachments because your spiritual self is an infinite soul. Nothing can make you happy or successful. These are inner constructs that you bring to your world rather than what you receive from it. If you think peaceful thoughts, you'll feel peaceful emotions, and that's what you'll bring to every life situation. If you're attached to being right or absolutely need something in order to be at peace or to be successful, you'll live a life of striving, yet never arriving. It's possible to have a burning desire, yet not have attachments. You can have an inner vision of what you intend to manifest and still detach yourself from the outcome. How? Consider this observation in A Course in Miracles. Infinite patience produces immediate results. It sounds like a paradox, doesn't it? Infinite patience implies an absolute certainty that what you'd like to manifest will indeed show up in a perfect order and exactly on time. The immediate result you receive from this inner knowing is a sense of peace. When you detach from the outcome, you're at peace, and you'll ultimately see the fruits of your convictions. Suppose you had a choice between two magic wands. With wand A, you can have any physical thing you desire by simply waving it. With wand B, you can have a sense of peace for the rest of your life, regardless of what circumstances arise. Which one would you pick? A guarantee of stuff or inner peace for the remainder of your life? If you opt for peace, then you already have wand B. Simply have a mind that is open to everything but attached to nothing. Let it all come and go as it will. Enjoy it all, but never make your happiness or success dependent on an attachment to anything, any place, and particularly any person. In all of your relationships, if you can love someone enough to allow them to be exactly what they choose to be, without any expectations or attachments from you, you'll know true peace in your lifetime. True love means you love a person for what they are, not for what you think they should be. This is an open mind and an absence of attachment. In essence, I'm urging you to stop taking your life so personally. You can end any and all suffering by reminding yourself that nothing in the universe is personal. Of course, you've been taught to take life very personally, but this is an illusion. Tame your ego and absolutely free yourself from ever taking anything personally. Keep these thoughts in mind, particularly when you feel lost or unsure of your purpose. My purpose is about giving. I'll direct my thoughts off of me and spend the next few hours looking for a way to be of service to anyone or any creature on our endangered planet. This will bring you back to a realization that it doesn't matter what you do as long as you're able to give. In order to fully give and be of service and ultimately feel purposeful, you must be able to say yes when you ask yourself, do I really possess what it is that I wish to give away? There's a lot of people out there, many of you, who, while you're having your first cup of coffee, are thinking about the second cup. Or while you're having your appetizer, are wondering if you're going to be able to get a dessert. And all of this stuff called appetizer and your main course and all of that is something you just sort of forget about, don't experience, in anticipation of what it's going to be in the next moment and the next moment. Now, the highest form of sanity that's out there and available for all of us is this present moment, the now, and making a peak experience, being able to make a peak experience out of a present moment, out of any present moment. The old saying is that life is what happens to you while you're making other plans. And you must understand that every moment in your life is a miracle to be lived, that you must stop looking for miracles in something in the future, and that not falling in love with your plan means that if you want to get someplace terrific, enjoy every step along the way. And then if you want to alter that, let's say you want to be a physician. You're young and you go to school and you want and all that, and then you realize, no, I don't think I want to go to medical school. That doesn't have to be a horrendous kind of letdown or a failure of some kind. You simply say, I think I'll move in this direction now. I'll move in. And every day you have to live fully, rather than suffering or postponing your gratification or postponing your purpose in the pursuit of something in the future which may or may not arrive for you, and if it does, you'll very likely be a completely different person anyway. That's one of the hard things to understand. Heraclitus said, there's nothing permanent but change. Change is the only thing there always is, including all of us all the time. So if you set a goal for yourself for a long time, you have to understand that you're going to be very, very different from the person that you are now. I had a good friend who was an internist, and he was in his 40s, and he said to me, it's this practice that's just getting to me. I'm owned by it, I'm making a lot of money and all that, but I don't want to do this. I want to be a sportscaster. He wanted to broadcast, and he wanted to practice on high school teams, and he'd always wanted to give that a try where he could be his own boss and not be a slave to it and all that. I said, well, why are you pursuing this? You're a physician and all that, but why would you want to continue doing that? He said, well, I decided a long time ago that I was going to be a physician, and that I can't change that now. I'm a doctor. And I said, who decided that you were going to be a physician? He said, well, I was 18 years old and I made that decision. I said, would you go to an 18-year-old today to get vocational guidance for where you should be going in your life? Would you consult a teenager for that? He said, well, of course not. I said, well, isn't that what you're doing? If you're not happy and not being fulfilled in what you're doing in this moment, you have the option to change that. And you don't have to be attached to what you've been. What you've been is just the choices that you made then. And if you don't want to make those choices now, and I can hear a collective rumbling in America as I say that, which is, yes, but I have responsibilities. Yes, but I have a mortgage. Yes, but, and there's a lot of those yes, buts. And I say to you that if you have always been responsible and paid your bills, then that is who you are, and that's what you ought to consult, rather than someone who is telling yourself that a disaster is on the way if you make a choice to be something that you never dreamt you could be. When I left the professorship, and I left an opportunity to have tenure for the rest of my life and a lot of external kind of security, and resigned, and went across the country to talk about erroneous zones back in 1976, everyone told me how insane that I was. But I've never listened to what everyone else said, because you have to listen to who you are. And I knew that no matter what, my inner voices told me this is what I have to do, and you can't stop someone who knows they have to do it from doing it. The irony of that is that I made more money, and I never even tried to. I never thought I'd make money writing, because I had already written a whole lot of books that didn't make any money, textbooks and so on. And writing was just something that I am. And it wasn't anything I could quit, stop. I didn't want to. I loved it. I felt fulfilled and so on when I wrote. And I knew that I was leaving footprints and all of those things. The irony is that after I finally resigned and did what I wanted to do, I made more money in the first year that I went out and did what I really believed in and loved than I had made the entire 35 years previously of my life, my whole life. In 1 year, I made more money. And that isn't because I was lucky. That isn't because I'm Wayne Dyer and I had any opportunity. I didn't have any more opportunity than anybody else. fact, I had less. I came from complete poverty and many years in foster homes and orphanages and having to earn my own way through everything. Wasn't that at all. It was when you advance confidently in the direction of your own dreams and you go out there to live the life that you have imagined. Success will chase you and arrive in your life in external forms in an amount sufficient to take care of your needs. It will happen for you. As long as you stay there and tell yourself you've got to continue to do something, you've always done it because you've always done it, then the only payoff you get for that is to defend your misery. It's like arguing for your limitations. The only thing you get are your limitations. And the people who love you, care about you, your family and so on, will support you consulting your inner voices and your inner signals and doing what it is that you know you have to do. And if you picture yourself being successful at it, and you know that it's going to work, and you won't let any other image into you, it will get stored away within you exactly the same as if you were out working on it. And if you guide yourself by that image and just won't let that image out, you can't not make it happen. You can't. It's that law of the universe, because an image gets stored away the same as an experience. And every obstacle you just see as an opportunity to see what I've got to do to shift and to do it. Meantime, you're feeling purposeful and you're being purposeful. You're no longer looking for a purpose, you are your purpose.
You have been facing the wrong way. The most important insight you can have is to realize that you have been facing the wrong way for the better part of your life. Take a moment right now to experience what I mean. Picture yourself in any position that you like, standing, sitting, lying down, whatever is easiest for you to imagine. Now look at that mental picture of yourself. What you see in this exercise is a you who is always looking away from yourself, always looking outside of yourself. You are facing the wrong way. Now imagine being able to shift around and face the opposite direction. If you could in some magical way do so, then you would be facing inward. We've all been taught to look outside of ourselves for sustenance, to look beyond the self for power, love, prosperity, health, happiness, and spiritual fulfillment. We've been conditioned to believe we get life's bounty from somewhere outside of ourselves. But it's possible to reverse our gaze from outward to inward, and when we do, we find an energy we've sensed but not previously identified. There dwells within all human beings a divine energy. The power of this energy permeates our entire being and permits us to perform every function in the vast repertoire of human thoughts and behaviors. There are two aspects to this divine energy. The outer aspect causes the heart to beat and the lungs to inflate and the senses to function. It essentially keeps our physical bodies alive. The inner aspect of this energy is dormant, but it can be awakened. This inner universe is vaster than the outer universe. Inner joy makes all joy that is experienced in the world of the senses seem meaningless. When the divine light within you is experienced directly, it adds a radiance to life unlike anything that can be described with words or pictures. When you discover your sacred self, you awaken this dormant inner energy and let it guide your life. The word most commonly used to describe this inner force is spiritual. When I talk about spirituality and being spiritual, I am describing an attitude toward God and the inner journey of enlightenment. I'm speaking of expanding the godlike qualities of love, forgiveness, kindness, and bliss within ourselves. In my interpretation, spirituality is not dogma or rules. It is light and joy and focuses on the experience of love and inner bliss, radiating those qualities outward. I call the journey to discover your sacred self your sacred quest. You need to begin looking inward at who you are and why you are here instead of outward at the physical world and things within it. There was an instant in time when you were nowhere. The moment before your conception, you were nowhere. Then, in one holy instant, you went from nowhere to now here. There will be another holy instant when you will go from nowhere to now here. We call that moment death, yet you, the divine, changeless, eternal, invisible you, will live on. If it is true that we are a part of an intelligent system, we can assume that we go from nowhere to now here for some purpose. With this realization, you can stop doubting that you are a divine creation with purpose and just accept that you are. You are a part of this intelligent system, and you are here for some divine reason. That reason, you can surely guess, is concerned with the spiritual inner energy I am writing about. Knowing your spiritual self is your sacred quest and your life challenge. So many of us have grown up believing that who we are is this body we carry around, the job we perform, and the religion we practice. Our lives are involved with externals at the same time that we see that they are always changing and shifting. Yet somewhere inside of ourselves, we feel the same. You may not have given that self aspect much of your awareness, but if you do, you will discover an inner self that never changes but is trapped in a changing world. Someday your physical self will probably rest beneath a tombstone that records the date of your birth and the date of your death, but your inner soul knows you are eternal. Knowing this in a way that leaves no room for doubt will greatly enable your sacred quest. When you reach that state, knowing that who you are is the unchanging self, you will be on purpose in your life. Sogyal Rinpoche, in the Tibetan book of Living and Dying, puts this into words that are worth framing. In the modern world, there are few examples of human beings who embodied the qualities that come from realizing the nature of mind. So it is hard for us even to imagine enlightenment or the perception of an enlightened being, and even harder to begin to think that we ourselves could become enlightened. Even if we were to think of the possibility of enlightenment, one look at what composes our ordinary mind, anger, greed, jealousy, spite, cruelty, lust, fear, anxiety, and turmoil, would undermine forever any hope of achieving it. Enlightenment, he continues, is real, and each of us, whoever we are, can in the right circumstances and with the right training realize the nature of mind, and so know in us what is deathless and eternally pure. This is the promise of all the mystical traditions of the world, and it has been fulfilled and is being fulfilled in countless thousands of human lives. You can be one of those thousands of enlightened humans. This will happen as you discover the nature of your true self and relegate the part of yourself that is centered on the physical to the background where it belongs. From there, it can cheer you on and support your higher self, rather than act in ways that sabotage your true spiritual essence. This whole business of a sacred quest is real, and you can know it, love it, and cherish it. Once you do, you will never want to go back to any way of living that is inconsistent with your divine, though invisible self. You are not that name, that occupation, that social security number, that body. You are eternally light and divine, regardless of what you have done or failed to do, regardless of what family you lived in, or what you may have been labeled. You are holy, and you have a purpose for being here.
Hello, Abraham. It's wonderful to be here in your person. But what I'd really like to talk to you about for a moment is something called collective intention. I'm not looking to attract anything more into my life. I'm looking to see if I can impact the world in such a way with my consciousness, by getting myself in balance, that I can impact others in such a way that we can get the whole world back in balance. Is that possible?
Well, we are appreciating your words very much, but we are wanting to say that if you will start with the premise that the world is already really, really, really in balance. In other words, look at the things that are stable and acknowledge the perfection of that. The sun's coming up every morning and the food is continuing to grow. Things that are so big that you can't even imagine contemplating otherwise. And then from that place of aligning with the well-being, then you become an open vortex to well-being and a catalyst for the perpetuation of more things like that. When you come forth as a powerful teacher as you are, we can feel that for a very long time, the driving force within you, and so many, is to assist this world in becoming a better place. Inherent in that very premise is this little awareness that there are things about it that are not so much in a good place. And then, without meaning to, you activate that within yourself, and then you become part of the disallowance of it, and then there is a sort of perpetuation of the same. What almost always happens is your attention to the very thing that you think needs to come into alignment just gets it out of whack within you. So then it keeps coming back around to the same thing. The only thing that you can do anything about is your own alignment. And when you tend to your own alignment and live it through the power of your example, then what happens is those that get in vibrational proximity of it hear from you. You've learned long ago, as have we, that when you try to answer a question that hasn't been asked, it's sort of like pushing a noodle. In other words, it doesn't go very far. But when you are in vibrational alignment with who you really are, then the universe lines you up with those who are ready to ask, who are asking and ready to hear, and then on it goes. We do not see your world in a bad place. We see this contrasting experience as the catalytic experience that you all knew it would be when you decided to come forth. And we see more asking simultaneously than ever before. So the summoning of source energy is greater than it has ever been before. Which means those who are finding alignment with the energy are thriving in new and wonderful ways. And those who aren't are not thriving in new and powerful ways, you see. The best you can do for anyone is to thrive fully and be willing to explain to anyone who asks how it is that you're thriving and what it is that you've discovered. And then just relax and trust that all truly is well.
So, when others are not feeling good,
Yes.
when children are starving, when the kinds of things that we call problems in the world exist, it's like if everything in the universe, in the world is perfect, then so is my desire to change it, a part of that perfection.
We agree. In other words, we think that that larger contrasting experience can give birth to a desire within you. And even though it's not personal to your experience because it's on the other side of the world, it is personal to your desire, and you have the ability to create. We agree. Do something that you can do something about, which is align your own energy. And then we soothe you, not in a sort of placating way, but we want to let you know the power of what you do. When you observe and feel the desire that is born from you, and then you get into alignment with it, you do carve a pathway for the future experience of that. And future experiences do happen beneficially from that which you have laid out. As you are able to interact without losing your balance, then you are connected to source energy. You're like a satellite dish that is beaming the signal in a more powerful way. As you pay attention to the way you feel, and nothing is more important than that you feel good, so that you make sure that you've tended to that connection first and foremost, then there is nothing that you cannot influence for the better. And you can see C's part right before your hands. You do have that power of influence. But you got to be tuned into who you are first and foremost before you apply it. Yes.
Thank you.
Yes, indeed.
I feel good.
Yes, you do.
I love you. I ask my audiences frequently, how many bodies have you been in since you incarnated into this planet on this lifetime? Because one of the great teachers and sages of my life, a man named Muktananda in India, was asked the question, what is real, Swami? What is real? And he said, that is real, which never changes. So anything that is changing doesn't meet the definition of being real. So who are you? What part of you meets that definition? Certainly not that body that you're in. We've all been in so many bodies since we showed up. We were all in a little body about this big that weighed 7 or 8 or 9 pounds. And we were all in a body that was this big, a little toddler, and a teenage body, and a 20-year-old body, and for some, a body that has gone on, we've been in many bodies up and through the 70s and 80s, like myself, 71 years of age.
And if you think that body that you are in is real, then you must have thought that about your 10-year-old body as well. So I invite you to go out and bring that 10-year-old body in here, and we'll talk to it. And you smirk and laugh and so on because you realize that that's impossible, because it's not real. It doesn't exist, does it? And the same is true of the body that you walked into this beautiful church here in Assisi tonight. It will be different when you walk out. You'll walk out of here with a different body than you walked in with. So that by that definition, this is all just an illusion. It's just constantly changing, and therefore it isn't real. But there is a part of each and every one of us that can remember being in that 10-year-old body, and that observed it and noticed it, and that you can close your eyes and be there. You can do everything you did when you were 10 or 12 or 20 or 30 or whatever. And so it is to that element of your consciousness, of your awareness, of your reality that I address these remarks. Not the body, not our physical possessions, but our soul, our spirit, our divine mind, whatever we call it. It is to that is the only thing that is real. And when we learn to live from there, from that place, I call it the higher place, the higher self, or the highest self. The part of us that realizes that all of us, the poet T.S. Eliot said that we shall not cease from exploration. But at the end of all of our exploring will be to return to the place from which we originated, but to know it for the first time. The poet spoke of death. I don't. I believe we can return to that place from which we originated. Call it the Tao, call it God, call it soul, and come to know it. And this gathering here for this miraculous journey that we're all on began as an idea. I think it was my idea, but I know that something bigger is always moving the pieces around. And I'm always aware that even though I think that it's me making the choices, I also know that I'm also the spear carrier, or the extra, in a much, much larger drama. And that I am being told how to be. And the more I listen to that voice, that calling, that pulls me in a direction away from where I was in the earlier part of my life, when I lived my life on the basis of my own ego, and believed that my self-importance and my fame and my abilities to do things had something to do with my being special. And I've come to realize that it's not that way at all. I've often said that true nobility is not really about being better than anyone else. It's about being better than you used to be. And I think being better than you used to be really means less and less attachment and reliance upon your stuff, your body, your accomplishments, your reputation, your accumulations. Less on that, and more on the inner mantras. See, the inner mantra of the ego, which I've had to learn to shed and tame, is what's in it for me. What's in it for me? What's in it for me? What's in it for me? What can I do? How much can I get? I'm in competition with. I want more. More, more, more. Everything I have, I own. It's mine, it's mine, it's mine. That's the mantra of the ego. You all recognize it. But the mantra of the higher self
The God-realized part of ourself is how may I serve? How may I serve? How may I serve? The ability to cultivate your own garden, what a powerful notion that is. Preoccupation with being in other people's garden, tilling their soil, and looking at what they're creating, keeps us off of our purpose, keeps us off of fulfilling our human destiny and what we're here for, what we're about. Enjoying life and helping others to do that. As long as you're focused on what other people are doing, or should or shouldn't be doing, you're allowing their conduct or their behavior or their activities to control your life. That borders on immorality to me, because you've got a free will and you've got God with you at all times. To give that will over to someone else is like abdicating your very divinity, your very humanity. What your goal is to not allow other people's conduct or activities to be in charge of you, for you to be in charge of you and to know your purpose and to be fulfilling it. And if other people don't like the way that you are choosing to do that, then that just has to be in the way of things. That's just the way it is, and that's fine. If it can't be fine, then you have to stop and assess and look at yourself and say, why am I allowing other people's opinions or behavior or conduct to interfere with my own fulfillment or my own happiness? And know that that's what you're doing at the time that you're finding yourself upset with other people's poking their nose into your garden. And then you find yourself not poking your nose into their garden as well, because when you're on purpose, when you are living your life and conducting yourself in terms of loving and giving and sharing, then you're not on outcome. You're not at all concerned about whether this person likes that or not. I have found that one of the major changes for me in the past 5 or 6 years has been my almost indifference to what people think of what I'm doing. I find that I write now, when I write, on purpose, not on outcome. There was a time, I think, when I was more on outcome, on what's it going to look like, how's it going to sell, how's it going to do, and so on. And now I'm not on that at all. And it's interesting that as I get off of those outer concerns in my writing, that my writing really picks up and really improves and flows much better. I find that when I go before an audience and speak, that since I've let go of my notes and not concerned myself with outcome and with whether I'm going to be liked and how well I'm going to be received and all of that, I can be much more authentic when I'm on stage, when I'm talking, and which consequently results in my performance being, I think, much better than it was. And it isn't that I'm a better performer, it's that I'm on purpose. And I'm not concerning myself with all of the worrisome things that you can never get an answer to. That is, how is everybody going to like me, and how am I being received, and all of that sort of thing. So, more and more in my life, it isn't that I've made a decision, all right, now that I'm enlightened, I no longer am going to be concerned about what other people think of me. It's that it just simply doesn't occur to me any longer to be consumed with what other people think of what I'm doing. And the reverse of that, which is really nice, is that I'm not concerned about what other people are doing. I mean, I'm grateful that there are people out there who are doing a lot of the things that I would find just treacherous to do. I mean, emotionally treacherous, like being an accountant, for example, or working at a computer, or maybe being a chef, or driving a truck. Those are all things that I just couldn't imagine myself. If somebody said, you have to do it, I'm sure I could turn it into something positive for myself, but I'm so grateful that there are people out there who like to work at computer terminals and who like to work with figures. When you are cultivating your own garden and not concerned with others, you just look at other people's gardens and you say, wow, this is his whole life, and look at how good he is at this, and he can just shift this around, and he can do all of that. And my brain just doesn't work that way. It just doesn't work that way any more than if and I told him that, I said, how would you like it if I gave you a microphone and 5,000 people and told you, go out there and talk to them for 3 hours? He said, I'd collapse. I said, or if I gave you 500 blank sheets of paper and I said, fill them and write a book. He said, I couldn't do it. I said, well, that's exactly the way I feel about what you're doing. And yet I honor it. I mean, I celebrate it. To me, this is a genius that someone could do something like that. And that's the way to cultivate your own garden. If you're a person who feels that you can't do that, or that's difficult for you, or you have to have your hands in on every little detail, and then you fill the other people with resentment towards you, then that's the payoff that you're going to get. You're going to be continuously frustrated. You're going to find yourself an unhappy person. You're going to find yourself judging other people and using your standards. You're going to find yourself doing the big no-no. If you want to understand the magnificent universe within you, you have to understand that making other people wrong or making yourself right is a real low step on the enlightenment ladder. I mean, it's not even on the ladder. It's underneath the ground. You've got to allow other people to be who they are. And if you are that detailed person who is going to judge them for not doing it the way you would do it, then I would suggest you don't have other people in your garden with you, that you do it all yourself. But you'll find yourself off of purpose then.
I quote from the I Am discourses. The first expression of every individual everywhere in the universe, either in spoken word, silent thought, or feeling, is I am, recognizing its own conquering divinity. The student, me, you, all of us, endeavoring to understand and apply these mighty yet simple laws, must stand guard more strictly over his thoughts and expression, in words or otherwise. For every time you say, I am not, I cannot, I have not, you are, whether knowingly or unknowingly, throttling that great presence within you. These words, I am. I opened up this program with the words, I am well, I am perfect health. And where do you think they came from? What do these words, I am, mean? In Exodus chapter 3, and says, Moses, Moses. And the first words that Moses says to God are, here I am. Then he said, do not draw near here, this place. Take off your sandals and for your feet, for this place where you stand is holy ground. And God speaks to Moses and says, I want you to go to the Pharaoh and I want you to free your people. And Moses is going, wait, hold on here. Who am I? And who are you? Moses says to God, who am I that I should go to the Pharaoh and that I should bring the children of Israel out of Egypt? So he said, I will certainly be with you, and this shall be a sign to you that I have sent you. When you have brought the people out of Egypt, you shall serve God on this mountain. Then Moses says to God, indeed, when I come to the children of Israel, and I say to them, the God of your fathers has sent me to you, and they say to me, what is his name? What shall I say to them? And God says to Moses, I am that I am. And he said, thus you shall say to the children of Israel, I am has sent me to you. This is my name forever, and this is my memorial to all generations. My name is I am that I am. Now, every single time that you use the words, I am, you are citing the name of God, right from the holiest books. And every time you say the words, I am weak, I am poor, I am unlucky, I am unhappy, I am sick, I am unable to attract into my life what you want, you are desecrating the name of God. God did not say, I will be. My name is, I hope things work out well. My name is, maybe things will show up that I wanted, but possibly not. He said, I am that I am. You must be conscious of how you use these words. I am. I am strong. I am well. I am content. Even if your senses tell you something different, I am. And as we move now into the meat of this program, you'll see that putting the words I am in front of something into your mind and imagination is a very powerful way to attract into your life. Recognizing your own divinity. I am God is not blasphemy. It is your identity.
That our words are really decrees of what it is that we want to attract and what do we want to create in our life. And I find myself in doing this show for 10 years, watching how people talk and respond when they'll say something like, well, that's very difficult, And I almost always stop them and say, let's look at that word, difficult, because that becomes a decree. It's like, if you say something is going to be difficult, and then in life you're offered an option of doing something that is difficult or doing something that is easy, you're going to pick the easy choice. And for example, people will often say I'll tell them about quitting smoking, about how I quit smoking, and I made a decision to do it, when I was a very young man back in my early 20s. And they'll say, yeah, but that's very difficult, and it's very difficult to overcome addictions. And I've overcome several addictions in my life that I didn't start out believing that it was going to be difficult, because if you do, then the first time that you're tempted to go back to having a cigarette or having that drink or taking that drug or whatever, the first thing that you say to yourself is, well, I can do something that's very difficult, which is to pass by it and have to live with the consequences of wanting it and desiring it. Or I can tell myself that this is really quite easy. All I have to do is not put a cigarette in my mouth. So, as I was reading this, she makes this comment in this chapter on Power Through Metaphysics. She says, I suggest that you spend a day just listening to yourself. Listen to the decrees that you make so casually. Things that people say, here are some of them that I wrote down and that she had written down as well. Business is rotten. So that becomes like a decree. I've heard people say that. I have a dear friend who runs a golf driving range place, and I've heard him say so many times, business is terrible, business is terrible. When you start believing that it's the economy or that it's business, you're setting out a decree. It's literally a decree. And another is that kids today are a lost generation. So we look at the young people and we think, and we make this kind of a decree. And then every time we see a young kid doing anything, we sort of have this that we live up to. We'll never get there in this traffic. You can't trust anyone these days. It's not safe to walk in the streets. Don't touch that or you'll break it. With my luck, I'll probably, things won't work out. I've often heard people say this over and over again. Well, it's just not going to work out because with my luck, and instead of saying with my luck things are going to work out and I anticipate things are going to be great, that becomes a decree. Instead, we have these decrees about all the things that can't happen. I've never seen it fail. If I eat this, it's going to upset my stomach. I can feel a migraine coming on. They're going to rob you blind. She's a gossip. There's no point in trying, and on and on. And it's like when we think about just casually the words that come out of our mouth, and then she goes on to say, you can see the pattern. You've made the prophecies, and your attitudes govern your actions to the point where you make sure that those prophecies are fulfilled. It says, never forget, every word that you utter is a decree, whether positive or negative. When it is positive, it is manifested in good. When it's negative, only bad can follow. If your words are against someone, it's the same as condemning yourself. That person lives up or down to your expectations, at least where you are concerned. But when you speak with kindness and understanding toward others, they will return kindness and understanding to you. And when something unpleasant happens to you, don't think, I wasn't expecting that. Think instead of statements that you've made in the past that predicted and literally caused your misfortune. And this is the thing, that's what I underlined and wanted to say this morning. When something unpleasant happens to you, don't think, I wasn't really expecting that. Instead, begin to look at all of the statements that you've made in the past that have predicted and literally caused this misfortune, whatever it is that's taking place in your life. It could have been one of those idle statements like the ones that I just mentioned to you. Like every time I make an investment, I lose my shirt, or I have bad luck, or think with my luck things aren't going to work out, and so on.
And so what I want, what I'm doing for myself as well is looking at, I think we can take this, Diane, to a level that isn't just about, these sort of minor things that I'm talking about. I think we can do this with the diseases that show up in our life, with the difficulty in relationships that show up in our life, with the absence of of abundance or prosperity or funding or money that show up in our life. If we were to take and just look at all of the things that exist in our present life and ask ourselves, how many times have I uttered statements or words or had ideas that I have proclaimed and decreed, and then they've showed up in my life. So this business about forgiveness, now, I want to tell you that whatever you got going for you in your life in the way of animosity or bitterness or anguish or pain or whatever towards any other human being on our planet, whoever they are and what they've done, that the toxic reaction to that bitterness, it will never let go of you. That forgiveness is like the greatest motivator, if you will, in the world. Towards anyone or anything, hanging on to anything painful or hurtful and so on, I personally believe you've got to let go of. Not only do you have to let go of it, you don't have to make any phone calls, you don't have to let anybody else know that you're doing it. In your heart, you have to purify yourself in such a way that you just simply say, love is forgiving. And that's 2 words, and it's 1 word. When it's 1 word, it's love is forgiving. All right? And that's what it is. You must forgive. And it's also forgiving, so you don't ask anything back of it. After I did that, my whole life became so clear and so focused, and where I was going became so evident, and I left there and I outlined my book the following week. And let me tell you that I have never had a dream about my father since. I have never had a moment's anguish of any kind toward him or anything that he has done. In fact, I am completely at peace with him, and I send him love wherever he is. Whatever is going on in who he is and where he is and what it is, it's all fine. It's all okay. In fact, without those experiences that were the result of some of the things that he had done, my opportunity to help so many people and to create wonderful things for others, including myself, would never ever have materialized without that. And I see that, and I see the need for that, and I believe in it. And I also want to say to you, whatever you got inside of you is not the result of what anybody else puts there. It's the result of what you decide to have inside of you. Think for a minute about an orange. And when I've given this analogy many times, you take an orange and you squeeze it as hard as you can squeeze it, just, all right? And what comes out? These are easy questions, folks. Honest, don't look puzzled. Everybody passes, all right? Nobody fails tonight. What comes out is orange juice. But the question is, why, when you squeeze an orange real hard, does orange juice come out? And the answer to that is because that's what's inside. These are really easy. They get easier. All right? Now, does it matter who squeezes? Does it matter what instrument you use? Does it matter what time of the day you do it? Does it matter how you do it? When you do it? No. When you squeeze an orange, what comes out of an orange is what's inside. When you squeeze a person and put pressure on a person of any kind, and anger and hatred and stress and tension and depression come out, it isn't because of who is doing the squeezing or when they do it or how they choose to do it. It's because that's what's inside. And if you don't have it inside, it can never come out, no matter who you're living with. No matter how tough it may seem to you. And when somebody cuts you off on the freeway, and you're mad as hell and going to get even with them, and you're going to get up in front of them and slow down and make them see what it's like, it isn't because they cut you off that you're so upset. It's because that's what you carry around inside. And when you stop carrying that around inside, nothing that anybody does can upset you. No one can make a fool of you without your consent. Eleanor Roosevelt. No one can depress you. No one can make you anxious. No one can hurt your feelings. No one can make you anything other than what you allow inside. You see, my evolution has brought me to the point of understanding that each human being on our planet must take
total responsibility for his own inner development, for his own inner development. And our inner development is something that we ignore a lot as we progress through this whole ladder of life. And I think of a metaphor. The metaphor is like a candle, and the candle flame that is burning inside of you. All right? Now this candle flame, if you take a candle and walk out of here this evening and you see raindrops falling, it'll blow out your candle, and the wind will blow out your candle. There's all kinds of things that are going to happen outside of you that you have absolutely no control over to blow out your candles. Your candles are getting blown out all the time. We have an inner candle flame that must never flicker, though the worst goes before us. And that's perhaps the highest place we can get to in our lives, is to understand that what our own inner development, symbolized by that candle flame, must never change, must never even flicker. It is our responsibility, not only for ourselves, but for our children as well, to raise them to believe that whatever is going on inside of you is entirely up to you. You own it. It is yours.